So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to double check if my maxillary teeth are still sitting properly on the occlusal plane table, and if all is well, then I'm going to start and festoon. So festooning is basically simulating the wax to look like actual gingiva. So you need to reproduce the eminences that you find on the gingiva. And this is what I will be doing. So what you want to have is the gingiva must look like it has healthy interdental papillas. So these areas must not be dug up when you carve them out. So I'm actually going to show you exactly how you do that and how you hold the instrument to achieve such a look. And as you can see the eminences that will be on the gingiva because of the roots. Each eminence follows the inclination of the tooth. So as you can see, the eminences are all distally inclined. The eminence of the lateral is much shorter and much flatter than the central and that of the canine. And if you come here at the back, your root effects can all be straight. So they can be vertical. If you want, you can even do like an effect of having the roots splitting. But at this stage, since it's your first time festooning, I will not recommend that you do that. So this is basically what will be the final product. Lingually, what you want to have is you want to have the wax come up to almost the cusp of the teeth. On the teeth, if you look very carefully, you're going to see that there is a line that separates the occlusal surface of the teeth and the body of the teeth. So you want the wax to actually come up on that line. Then I will also show you how you would carve around the teeth to actually get a finish like this. Anteriorly, you want to remove all the wax from the lingual surfaces of the teeth, and you want to leave a smooth surface for the patient, and you need to ensure that the thickness of the base plate is about 2 millimeters because you don't want it to be too thick. If it's too thick, it may affect pronunciation of certain words, and the patient may also be reluctant to accept the denture. So when I would have festooned my denture like this, the next thing that I will then do is relieve all my frenna and ensure that the thickness of the borders is also uniform. And from that point on, I will then cut away the posterior border appropriately. And lastly, I will show you how you would draw a post dam and inscribe it. The post dam improves the retention of the denture by providing a seal between the denture and the soft tissue, so that saliva, water, any liquids or food particles do not go underneath the denture. So but I will say the most important thing at this moment in time is to teach you how to create these eminences and how to then cover around the teeth facially, buccally, as well as lingually. And then the rest of the finish of the wax is per how you finished your bite block, where then you'll need to smooth out your wax and then you need to give it a high shine. Now I'm going to just double check to see if my teeth are still sitting correctly on the table. Yes, seems like that is the case. It's just a slight lift with my centrals, like if you look closely, so I'll need to just push them down. Another important thing that you need to double check is if your pin is still sitting flat on the incisal table. So I'm just going to sort out my centrals there, and then I'm going to remove my model from the articulator, and then I'll start with the festooning. So I'm going to try and remove the tri-indenture from the model. because what I want to try and do first is sort out the thickness of my borders. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to try and trim away the thickness. You don't want to start festooning with having very thick borders. If you have very thick borders, you're going to end up having very bulbous and fatty festooning, and you don't want that to happen. So you want your festooning, as you can see here, to be within the confines of your borders. So you can see it's very mild. You don't want fatty eminences. Okay, so what you need to do at this point on, if you find that there are areas where the teeth are not covered in wax, so if you look here, you're going to see that the teeth are actually covered in wax, so the cervical thirds of the teeth are covered in wax. So if you find that there are areas where you can actually see the necks of the teeth, or they're not covered, you actually need to cover those areas. So here posteriorly, the teeth are covered nicely, so I don't have to add any wax there, but I'm going to have to add some wax anteriorly. Here lingually, if I feel this area here, I can see there's like a ledge or like a step, so I'm going to have to fill the wax there. And again, I need to fill the wax until to the line that separates the occlusal surface from the body of the teeth. So the easiest way to add wax without taking too much time is rolling a piece of wax or excess wax. Just roll it up like so. And I'm just going to bring the Bunsen burner a bit closer. And you just melt away the piece of wax and let the wax drip onto the area where you want to add the wax. As you can see, I'm concentrating on adding the wax around the teeth. I'm not taking the wax to the borders because I don't want to thicken that area up. You also want to bring the height of the wax to the same line where the separation of the occlusal table and the body of the tooth. So here posteriorly, that's what you want to do. So you just want to smooth out this area with the spoon side of your wax knife before you actually start the festooning. What you also just want to do at this point is just readapt your base plate. Okay, so I'm ready for the festooning. Use is my Ashkaba and I am going to use it to carve around the teeth. What you want to do is to hold your ash carver to be at a 45-degree angle with the teeth. All right, so like so. So you don't want to hold your instrument like this when you're carving around the teeth, because what will happen is you're going to end up digging too much of the wax away, and then you're going to create a food trap. So what you're trying to do is you hold your instrument at a 45-degree angle, so that when you carve around the teeth, you create a slope that is about a 45-degree angle. So what this slope facilitates is that when a person is eating, the food will actually slide down the slope. So you don't want to create like a perpendicular face. So what you want to also do is let the shape of the tooth guide you in terms of where you need to carve. So you need to just be gentle and move very slowly around the tooth. You do not want to expose the neck of the tooth. You're just going around the crown. So this is known as the first cut. So you see I'm doing this very slowly, ensuring that my ash carver is at a 45-degree angle. It may take you a while to actually get into the groove of doing this. So very slowly. Okay, so I'm going to do the first cut again this side. And as you can see, as you are carving around the teeth, you are not digging into the interdental papilla areas. If you don't hold your instrument at a 45-degree angle, you will end up digging into the interdental papilla areas. Do another cut there to expose the full length of the tooth. Right, so then you just remove all the wax from the facial surface of the teeth. Okay, so now what I want to do is create eminences on the wax. So I'm actually going to carve these eminences, but I first need to set a guide for myself as to where exactly I want to create these eminences. So the one thing that I need to be mindful of is the fact that the eminences must follow the inclination of each tooth. So the maxillary anterior teeth all have distal inclinations, so that means my eminences must all have a distal inclination. The neck of the lateral is much flatter than that of the central and that of the canine. The canine's neck is much more prominent, so that will also need to be mirrored on the eminences. So what you use the spoon side of your crown and what you do is you just carve the eminences, and the separation between the teeth must be obvious. And also what you want to do is you want your eminences to taper, because that's how roots are in the natural mouth. They taper. So you don't want eminences that have no shape. So you want them to have some sort of taper. So maybe I might need to bring this a bit closer so that you can actually see what I'm doing. So between the teeth, it's like I'm creating little triangles, right? And these triangles are then giving me that separation between the teeth, like a clear distinction that this root eminence actually belongs to the canine, and this one to the lateral, and that one to the central. Okay, so now I have a clear distinction. So what I want to do now is I want to refine this and make it much more prominent than what you see. So I'm going to use the sharper side of my lacron, and I'm literally just carving this. So as you can see, I'm trying to stay away from the center of the eminences, because at this moment in time I don't want to flatten them. Okay, remember the neck of the lateral is much more depressed, and what we also want to do is shorten the eminence of the lateral. So I will then carve away the length of the lateral's eminence, and also I'm going to try and flatten it a bit. So I'm just making the eminence of the canine much more prominent than the rest. So can you see? Right, can you see that they are distally inclined? So I'm just going to continue carving. So now I'm going to concentrate on the posterior eminences. So again, I'm just going to go in with the spoon side to give myself a bit of guidance as to where exactly I want to carve. The eminences of the posterior teeth are all vertical. They are not distally inclined. But again, we're going to try and give them some taper. Okay, so I have scraped in some guidances for myself with the spoon side of the lacron. Now I'm going to go in with the sharp side to refine the shapes. Remember, we want them to have a bit of taper. I will be giving individual demos for festooning if you need them. So I'm quite happy with what I have. So now what I just need to do is flame the eminences. The mistake that most students make, or what most students struggle with, is having to flame the eminences without actually melting them away. It takes a bit of practice. It may be frustrating, but what you need to do is don't concentrate your flame too much on one area. So you just need to do like a sweep of the flame, wait for the wax to harden, then do another sweep until you get the smoothness that you require. So just have a look. Okay, so now I'm just gonna flame this. Give it a nice flame. And also what you don't want to have, your flame must not be too hot. So as you can see, I'm giving it a sweep and I'm waiting for the wax to harden. And also you need to learn how to direct your flame into areas that you want the flame to actually go into without melting what you have carved. So can you see, as soon as I've flamed, the eminences become much more prominent. So that's what you want to happen. It may happen that after flaming you might want to refine your eminences, because as much as you may try to not flame away the eminences, sometimes you cannot prevent them from actually being flattened. So you may want to just refine them. So this, as you can see, setting up seems like you go a step forward and 2 steps back, but eventually you get where you want to go. Okay, so at this point in time, I'm going to do my last cut. It could be, I could do, as much as I'm saying it's my last cut, I may do a third carving around the tooth depending on the look that I'm trying to go for. So again, I'm going to go gently around my teeth, letting the shape of my tooth guide me. And I don't want to dig up the interdental papilla area. And don't expose the roots of the teeth. You just want to expose the crowns, not the root. Okay, so there we go. So now what I want to do is just flame around the area we had just carved because it is a bit rough. So what I want to do is just give it a smooth finish. I'm happy. Also, one thing that you need to note when you do go around your teeth is the fact that exposure of the canine is much higher than that of the central and the lateral. And also one thing that you also need to note is that the posterior teeth exposure is almost at the level of the canine. As you can see, there's my festooning. I'm happy with it. Now what I would then do at this moment in time is smooth out borders and relieve the frenna. So that's what I'm going to do now before I move on to the lingual festooning. So I'm going to try by all means to not mess up my eminences. So when you are festooning, you don't festoon all the way down to your borders. Otherwise, you're going to get very like a bulbous festooning, or like a fatty anesthetic festooning. So that's why I can still go back to my borders and trim them down, because when I was festooning, I didn't take the root eminences all the way to the borders. So I'm just gonna flame my borders very lightly. And as you can see, my borders are still in the sulcus area. Okay, I just want to refine that area. I'm not too happy about it. If you look very closely, you're going to see that there's air that is trapped within the wax. So I want to poke that wax to give a better finish. If you find that when you were carving around your teeth that you've overexposed your teeth, what you just need to do is take a bit of wax and just add around the margin of the tooth, and then just carve around it again. It's as simple as that. Okay, so I'm happy now. So now I'm going to move to the lingual side. So we had already removed some of the wax from the lingual of the anterior teeth, but I'm just going to go again just to double check that I do not have any wax. Okay, so I'm happy. I just need to bring up the wax all the way up there on the premolar, then I can start the carving around the teeth. What you also want to do at this point in time is trim away any thickness that is on the palate area. Now remember, again, I'm just doing one side, but what I've done you have to do throughout the denture as well as on the velar denture. For the sake of time and for the sake of not wanting to make this video very long, I'm only going to do one side. and only on one denture. So just double check your thickness. Okay, so the thickness seems fine. Okay, so all right, so just remember, you flame this area before you festoon. So here, lingually, we're gonna flame there again. We're gonna flame, and then after flaming, you're gonna see that there may be some wax residue or some wax still on the lingual surfaces of the teeth. So what you wanna do is remove the wax. And also what you wanna try and achieve is to make this wax really flat. So the wax must be at the same level as the surface of the teeth. So you don't want the wax to be thick in that area. When you would have completed the festooning, the relieving of your frenna, and shining your denture, you would then take a bit of monomer and rub on the facial aspect of your, basically all around your teeth too. And what the monomer will do is will remove any leftover residue from the wax, but you will need to ensure that you would have scraped the wax first, like scraped it out first. It's not like the monomer is not a miracle worker where you're gonna leave the wax in the occlusal surfaces of your teeth and then you think the monomer is just gonna wipe away the wax. No, you first need to remove the wax. The monomer only removes the residue of the wax. Okay, what I'm gonna do again, I'm gonna let the shape of the teeth guide me. Here you're going to place your instrument to be at a 90-degree angle with the teeth, and what you're literally doing is you're just taking a bit of wax away from the top surface. Right, again, this may not be visible or clearly visible in the video, but in the case that you're going to see in your practical class, it'll be quite clear as to what I am, what exactly I am doing, or you'll be able to see the finished product, and you'll be able to know what you then need to do. So I've just taken a little bit of the wax from the top surface, and then what I'm then going to do is I'm going to flame that area again. So that is my finished product. When I say finished, I'm just talking about the festooning hair, because I don't want people then to say, oh, but miss, in the video you didn't relieve your frenna. The reason why I'm not relieving my frenna is because you know exactly how to relieve the frenna, and you should also know how to finish off your borders. So I'm not going to do things which you already know just to elongate the video. So this then will be your finished denture. So the difference with the festooning of the maxillary anterior teeth and that of the mandibular anterior teeth is the fact that on the mandibular anterior teeth you do have to match the inclination of the teeth with the eminences, but you do not have to differentiate in terms of lengths as well as prominencies. Obviously the prominency of the canine is going to be much more because the neck is much prominent compared to the other teeth, but in terms of the length can all be the same. But again, you need to be careful that you don't let the length come all the way to the border of your denture. So with that said, the next time I will be doing a demo is I'm going to be showing you how to create a post stem.